Hi, my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher, and welcome to Flosstube number 7. This is my wrap-up of Stitch Sania. It is Sunday, May the 31st, so it's the very last day of May, and so my Stitch Mania, which I'm doing the Stitch Sania version, is wrapping up at the end of my stitching time tonight. I will say I'm filming this a little later than I normally would. It's been a very cloudy day. The lighting is off, so sorry it's not as good as it is in the previous videos. If I get a lot more cloudy days, I think I'm gonna have to revisit where I'm filming this and what the lighting is, but so it's a little bit different this week. Stay tuned for next week and see what happens on that front. If you are new to my channel, this is a channel about cross stitch. If you are returning, thank you for coming back and spending some time with me. So Stitch Mania. So Stitch Sania was the version that I was doing this year. It's a takeoff on Stephanie Webb's version. So what that means is Monday through Friday I'm working on a main project, and then every weekend I start a new project just during the month of May. And it has to be a small project, small being defined as less than 100 by 100 stitches. So I'm going to get right into it. What have I been stitching this week? So if you've been here before, you know that my main project that I've been working on is Nora Corbett's Fairy Winter Dream. So this is what it's looked like. The model was stitched on 32 count Ocean Kiss linen, which is absolutely not what I'm stitching it on. And so where did I get to this week? So I have finished all of the dress. So as you can see, all of the dress except for the beads. And as I've noted in previous videos, this particular fabric that I'm doing it on does make it, as far as I'm concerned, fairly apparent where the beads belong. And I did start on the skin, so I've managed to get almost a whole arm accomplished. Finished up the dress and get that arm almost completely stitched. I am doing the skin 1/1, and so I do find that I stitch a lot slower because I'm having to think more, because I'm converting a pattern that's charted for 2/2 into 1/1. So it's technically for every one regular stitch, it turns into 4 really little stitches. So I do have to do a little more thinking, and so I have noticed that I stitch quite a bit slower while I'm making those conversions. The other thing that I'm doing, and part of the reason why I've chosen to do the skin over one, is it does let me do a little more shaping to the arm if I choose to do it that way. So that's where I'm at on that one, so making good progress. When I get to the end of showing you the stitching, I'm going to have a little bit of a chat about what I've learned through this process and what my plans are going forward. So last weekend, I started my Hinzeit mini autumn block, or mini block autumn. So that was my new start last week. And so what did I stitch on Sunday? This is being done, I think, on an ivory lugana. I don't have whether it's 28 or 32 noted on it. And so I finished, that's the bigger piece, I'm just going to fold it in half. So what did I finish? So I finished squaring off this particular one. I know that I noted last week that I was planning on getting the N done, and so I got N and M accomplished. And so happy with my progress on that one. I'm also happy, I'm going to hold it up a little closer, so I'm a little happy with how the variegation is coming out. And then again, just if you were wondering, the floss that I'm using for this is Caron Wildflowers Fiesta, which is number 010. So the other thing that I did while I was, now that I had 2 of the blocks all squared off, as you can see in the chart, there's a charm that goes, you know, in the spaces here. So one of the things that I did do while I was stitching on that is I took the bag of charms out and took each of them and placed them in, because all of these blocks are exactly the same count, and made sure that all of my charms do fit in there. And they do. There's one, it does fit, it's tight, but it does get in there, so I was feeling pretty good about that. Saying so at the very end when I go to attach those, I know that they'll all fit. So that's where I got to on last week's stitching. And then the piece that I'm starting this weekend is My Big Toes Choose Joy. And so one of the things that I was deciding is whether or not I was going to stitch it on 20 count white lugana, or whether or not I was going to stitch it on Verdal. So that was part of my stitching time, was and really all I did was haul out the Verdal, and I started with that and went, I could see it to stitch, so I made my choice. I am stitching this on a 40 count. There's a little bit of weird lighting going on there. So that's where I got to on my stitching last night. Didn't have a lot of stitching time, but I did manage to get some in. I am going to do some stitching tonight as well. And so by the end of this, I will have started 5 new projects. I will have not finished any of my smalls. But again, that'll come into my discussion. So again, I am stitching this with a Waterlilies Polar Ice, which is, let me look at my tag, number 157. So Caron Waterlilies 157. And again, the whole point of the color that I chose is that this is going to fit into this particular jar. And so in a really super technical version of how I assessed how it was coming along, shoved it in there and went, again, the lighting is horrible for this, but I think it's going to end up looking quite nice on that. The green that I'm going to use is Dinky Dye's Irish Meadows. So that's what that looks like. And then I did notice that, you know, despite the fact that the Waterlilies is over dyed, I've actually been through some of the color changes in the part that I've stitched, so it doesn't actually come across as being very over dyed. So then I was really worried. I had chosen Caron Waterlilies ink to be the darker blue, and I'm a little concerned that that's just going to be a little too close. So I went into my stash and I already had some Dinky Dyes Midnight number 66. I'd already used that on a different project. So it's quite a dark navy. So I've also put that into the project bag as an option. That darker color is used just to do the words Choose Joy and the box around it. So that's where that is. If you're only here to see the new things that I've been stitching, I'm going to do one previous finish. Technically it's not a finish that I did. As I've said on a previous video, my aunt passed away in the last few months, and so we're just going through the process of cleaning things out of her house, and some of the stitching is coming to me. So this is actually a piece that she stitched. I don't have the chart to show for this. I believe that it's called a Williamsburg Christmas. So that's what that looks like. So I'm holding this up for quite some time because I'm really hoping that this I end up getting a screen capture of this. I think the last 3 videos I have consistently ended up with the picture that goes along with the video is always one of me holding up Fairy Winter Dream. So I'm kind of hoping that if I hold it up long enough, YouTube in its wisdom will choose to take a screen capture of this that I can choose. So this is one that she stitched. It's a fairly simple chart, so it's done on either a white or an antique white linen. It only uses 2 colors. The green is $6.99 and the red is $3.21. I'm not sure that it's actually complete. She did put her initials in here, but I have a moment going like, I wonder if there was anything else to that tree. And certainly along in here, I'm going to have to go back and look at the chart and see if it's actually finished. I did happen to notice, not that you can see it, but there's one stitch here in this tree up here in the window. I think she missed one red X because it seems to be missing an ornament. But I do really like this. I really enjoy decorating for Christmas and love these. Love the colors of this, and I love how it looks, and it's meaningful to me that my aunt stitched it, so it is on my list of things to get framed so that I can hang that up certainly at Christmas. But as I said, I will check and make sure that it's actually complete before I get it framed, and certainly put in that one last missing red ornament on that tree. So that's a previous finish. If you're just here to see stitching, thank you for stopping by. If you want to hear a little bit more chat, I've got a couple of stories to tell and some discussion about my plans for what I've learned through my Stitch Sania experience and what I'm planning, what I'm going to try on a go-forward basis. So if you're hopping off, thanks for stopping by. And for the rest of you, on to the stories. So I do have a couple of, one of the stories is one of my friends, we were chatting particularly about that Hinzeit autumn piece where I laughed because she was like going, could you not hear me? I was telling you when you were contemplating, and this was a couple of videos ago, about when I was debating what thread that I was going to use for that particular piece. She's like, I was telling you very clearly when I was watching your video that you should go look at Caron Waterlilies Burnt Toast. And I kind of laughed to myself because I'm like, you know, you do know that if you talk to me while you're watching the video that I can't actually hear you. And she kind of laughed and said, of course I do that, which is why I'm phoning you. If you do find yourself talking to me and you've got questions or comments or you've got thoughts for me, please put them in the comment box down below, because that will be the best way that I can actually see your comment or answer your question. And I kind of laughed because I know I do it myself. We've all watched those Flosstubers where they're struggling to remember the name of something, and you know what it is because it's always easier when you're sitting at home going, oh, well, of course, that's whatever it is. And I was laughing because recently I have found myself talking to Caroline from Off the Grid Needle Arts in some of her daily craft chats. I've been talking to her, and after I had this conversation with a friend of mine, I'm like, I really should send her a note and not just talk to her as I watch the video like she can hear me, because she can't. So it is on my to-do list this week that I'm going to send her a note and just tell her some of the things that I've been telling to her as I watch her Flosstube videos, which I've been enjoying. I will link Caroline down below. Certainly during the current situation, for the most part, she has been posting a daily craft chat. They're not terribly long. And, you know, certainly there are some, I tend to watch Flosstube at night while I'm stitching, and so it's not unusual. I've had a couple of days where I've watched 2 Caroline videos in a row, depending on how my Flosstube watching has gone that particular week. So what have I learned during Stitch Sania? It's been interesting. I have generally been a monogamous stitcher, so I've tended to have a piece and that's all I've worked on until it's complete. So very monogamous. So it has been interesting for me starting something, and I was making myself start something every weekend. I do have, there's a part of me that goes, I'm not terribly comfortable right now that I have 6 pieces on the go. Not to say that I don't have other whips. I certainly have other whips, and that's coming up in a few minutes here when I talk about those ones. So I'm feeling like I want to get some of those finished up, but I also I know that I've got some things, some stitching goals that I want to accomplish as well. So how do I make that happen? So one of the things that I learned is I do think it's beneficial for me to have a smaller project that I am working on as well as a larger project. And for some of you, like larger could be the Fairy Winter Dream. It's not sort of one of those giant, it's not like it's a Hate or something like that, or a Chatelaine, although I have a couple of those on the go as well. Just haven't worked on them in May. But it was, you know, I think we all have those days where you just sort of go for where you are in your headspace that particular day. I think it is beneficial for me to have a smaller project on the go. Just for those days where you're just like, let's do something a little simpler where I don't have to think so hard. And so that's what I think I've learned about that. So I think what I'm going to try and do is always have a smaller project on the go. I think I don't love the fact that I've got 4 small sitting here. Some of them are closer to a finish than others. So I think I'm probably going to try to knock some of those off in fairly short order. I don't think I'm going to keep 5 smalls on the go at the time, but stay tuned for future episodes. We'll see what I end up choosing to do. Maybe I do. Maybe I will end up saying I do like having the freedom of starting something new. I think I'm going to try to knock those off, but I do think I'm always going to have a small on the go. June 1st is tomorrow. And so where I'm at right now is I think over the course of the week, my goal is going to be to work on, over the course of 7 days, 5 of those days will be devoted to a larger project. And then I've got 2 days where I can play around with what I work on. It will be one of the smaller ones. I could choose to do, I could choose to do all 7 days on a larger project, but 2 days a week, and I'm not concrete that it has to be the same days every week, but 2 days I will, 2 days out of any given week, I can choose to work on one of my smaller projects. So how that's going to shape up, smaller projects or maybe even just another one. So in terms of whips, other projects that I have on the go, I do have, in December I started working on Quaker Christmas 2 by Bygone Stitches. I really started it in the month of December because in my head I'm going, it's going to be my December piece. That's what I'm going to work on in December until it gets done. But I'm a slower stitcher, and if I only work it in December, it's going to be like 15 years before I'm finished that thing. So I am planning on putting that back into the rotation of some kind because it will be in the category of a bigger stitch. So it could qualify for, one of those 5 days that I'm doing the larger ones. I am also working on the Marbeck Nativity. That's certainly, I think this next week I'm going to flip to that because I am feeling like I need to hurry up and get that finished. We can talk about that next week on exactly what the Marbeck Nativity looks like and the panels that go along with that. I also have started chatelaine the Polar Mandala, and because I'm slightly insane, I have chosen to do the version where the center piece of that particular mandala is a scene with the Northern Lights, and I'm choosing to do that over 1 as opposed to the over 2 version, just to, prolong things. I think once I get past that, I'm not terribly far on that, and as I said, I always slow down when I'm doing the over 1 stitching because I have to think a little bit harder, so I stitch even slower when I'm doing those ones. I think once I get past that center part of the mandala, it will start to speed up quite a bit. So, again, if I would just focus on that and get that done. And I also have an Artisy picture, which is kind of like a Hate, so it's full coverage. I call it my 60-year project because I think it's going to take me 6 years to get it complete, and anyway, so that's so what exactly I'm going to work on, and how I'm going to work on those projects during the 5 days, I haven't quite figured out. But this is going to give me an opportunity. I've learned something in you know, by doing Stitch Sania, which I'm going to start to apply, and I think we'll see how that goes, whether I end up sort of saying like you really do need a focused major piece, or whether or not you end up where I end up rotating through some of those other pieces. Stay tuned, we'll see how that goes. And then for the smalls that I'm going to do, when I was going through my stash to get ready for May, I, you know, was going through my stash, and you've got all these pieces, all of which have some things that would qualify or almost qualify. I think, as I said in one of the earlier, I think the first Stitch Sania video, I had somewhere it's like it was so close, it was like 108. So it didn't quite fit my very strict criteria that I was applying to myself, that it had to be less 100 by 100 or less. And so I made a list of designers, and so I've actually put that list of designers, and so it's not a short list. This is gonna, wow, this horrendous glare on this, but this will give you the gist of, you know, a long list of designers where I'm like, they all have pieces that are either would qualify as the small that I said, or almost qualify for the small. And so I've actually put them into the Tiny Decisions app. So I've made a wheel for smalls, and I've put all of these designers in them. So once I clean up the smalls that I started during the month of May, or if I get to a point where I go like, I'm okay having several smalls on the go, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin the Tiny Decisions wheel, and it's going to land on a designer, and I'm going to go upstairs and pick something from that designer and start that. So it will help me start to work my way through some of my stash. So that's what I'm planning on doing for that. I have also done a Tiny Decisions wheel for all of my whips, including the smalls. I'm, you know, debating whether or not, you know, when I have one of those days where I'm going, okay, this is not going to be your main project, where I decide which of the other pieces I'm going to work on, or if I'm going to let the Tiny Decisions wheel make that decision for me. And I'm also going to warn you, I'm one of those people where if the Tiny Decisions wheel comes up with something and I look at it and go like, yeah, but I don't want to do that one, I'm probably likely going to spin again anyway and let it choose something else. So, you know, I have enjoyed participating in Mania this year. You know, now that I've broken through and actually done something specific for May, I can see myself doing it again. What version it's going to take next May, stay tuned. I don't know which version I'm going to choose to do. But I have enjoyed the process. I've enjoyed the fact that I've tried something new. I've enjoyed that I've learned something about myself and about my stitching, and I've picked up on something. And so I will be, you know, doing some different things over, you know, the next several months as I'm sort of sorting through that and see what that looks like. So it will be interesting to see how that happens. Stay tuned for next week, because for sure you'll get to see the My Big Toe again, because it's still May 31st today. So my stitching tonight is, that's my piece that I'm going to be working on tonight, so it can get its full Saturday and Sunday stitching allotment in before the end of May. But as soon as we hit June 1st, we'll be in that where I'm trying to stitch 5 days on a main piece. Which main piece that's going to be, I'm leaning towards I need to go back to Marbeck, which means Fairy Winter Dream is going to go away for a little bit. Check back next week and see what I decide on that. And then which small I choose to work on is anybody's guess. I could rely on the Tiny Decisions wheel to make that decision for me. I could make it myself. I could, who knows. But for sure my big toe is going to get it worked on tonight. And then tomorrow night, June 1st, when I sit down to do my stitching, I don't know. We're going to see what I feel like. We're going to see what I do, but I am restricting myself that I need to figure out what my main piece is going to be, but I really am strongly leaning towards it needs to be the Marbeck piece. So if nothing else, come back next week because you'll get to see me talk about what Marbeck is and what that looks like. So that's it for me this week. No haul. I will say I'm contemplating doing something. So for those of you that watch Just Keep Stitching, you may know that they are on June 24th. They're going to be starting a sale, and I don't remember the name of the sale, but it's with the Twin Peak Primitives. They've got a series of 12 houses, one for each month, that they're going to start the sale on June 24th. I'm a terrible sale person. I really enjoy watching the sale, and certainly mystery sales. I can't start it until I see the entire design. And then and only then could I contemplate starting it. I am not good with the mystery. Clearly have too many control issues about that to do that. I need to see everything so that I can decide what I'm doing. You know, this one, it's a sale, but you get to see everything, whether I stitch them with the sale. The big thing is if you go to buy the pattern, either through the Twin Peak Primitive site itself or through their Etsy shop, go to any of the recent Just Keep Stitching Flosstube videos. They've got more instructions there, but the big thing is you can get the set of 12 and only the set of 12. It's not by individual house, but if you buy the set of 12 houses, right now they are selling it for 20% off if you do it and you tell them that you saw them through Just Keep Stitching to get that 20% off. So I'm seriously debating whether I'm going to go get those 12 patterns. I have a thing about stitching houses. I like houses. I like stitching houses. Although you haven't really seen any houses in what I've been stitching recently, but well, you saw my Christmas one, not that I stitched it. So I'm debating that. Check back next week because I might have some stash, and that might be what I've broken down and gotten, is taking advantage of that 20% off discount on the set of 12 houses. So that's it for me. Sorry about the lighting again. Hopefully next weekend it will be a little bit sunnier, not quite so cloudy and gross, and you won't get all this horrible glare that's going on over here. I hope everybody's staying safe, healthy, finding comfort in your stitching, and getting some stitching accomplished while we're in the current situation. And I hope everybody's family is doing okay. As I've said before, if you've got any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I'd be happy to address those. If not, stay healthy, stay safe, and I hope you're enjoying your stitching, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a good week.